Welcome to the Shootin The Que podcast presented by Heath Riles BBQ with tips, tricks, and an inside look at some of the top pitmasters in the game. Now here's your host, Heath Riles.
Welcome back to Shootin The Que. Today, of course, I'm joined by my lovely wife, Candace, and we have a very special guest, a Hall of Famer, a New York best-selling Times Cookbook author, Mr. Meathead. How are you doing, sir?
What pleasure to finally be face-to-face with you here in the home of Great Barbecue, Memphis. I've looked forward to this for years. I've been watching you and Candace on the internet for years, and I'm in the den.
And well, we're trying to get everything situated, and as you know, this business, when you kind of get in it, and it seems like when you put a little bit of work into it, it starts paying you back, and then the real work really starts with
Oh gosh, yeah, you've made a niche for yourself. I'm very honored to be here with you, and this is a really cool setup. I don't know how many people get to see the setup. They watch the videos, but he's got a whole little room here with fancy microphone stands and lighting. It's pretty cool.
Well, for everybody that don't know who you are, can you kind of tell everybody kind of who you are and how you got started in this crazy world of AmazingRibs.com?
Oh, dear. It was a dark and stormy night. I've always been around food and drink. My dad came out of college. He was a food science major in NYU. He and my uncle opened a butcher shop. I'd hang around there a little bit. In college, I got a job at ABC Liquors in Gainesville, Florida, where I learned to drink. That's where everybody learns to drink in college. And I developed a taste for wine, which was just marvelous. What a marvelous world wine was. And eventually I got a gig. I was a journalism major, so I liked to write. And I also did a lot of photography. I got a gig writing about wine for the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post, and I started a magazine about wine. So I had a 20-year career in and around liquid food, and then around 2000 I switched to solid food. I always loved to cook. I loved barbecue, and I decided I was drinking a little too much. It was time to start cooking again, and I love cooking. And in 2005, I built a website called AmazingRibs.com. There wasn't a barbecue website at the time. It's hard to believe this, but if you think back, the internet was just a jungle. I mean, it was as if you went to the library and threw all the books on the floor. If you wanted to find something, there was no Google, you know.
No.
And we built this little website, AmazingRibs.com, with one recipe, a rib recipe. It was pretty good. And we did the rib recipe because my neighbor used to be a butcher, and he challenged me to a rib cook-off. And I said, okay. And then I started trying to research how the hell do you cook ribs. And there was nothing on the internet, and there were no real barbecue books, and it just kind of led to a path. AmazingRibs.com now has about 2,000 pages of free content. Recipes, product reviews, science, myth busting. And we also have the section called the Pitmaster Club, which is a membership, paid membership, with over 120 really good quality instructional videos from guys you know, Tuffy Stone, Harry Sue, Meat Church, really great instructional videos, and a lot of other fun stuff. And somewhere along the line, when I started AmazingRibs.com, one of the ideas is the website would become a book. And that was 2005. The book didn't come out till 2016. That was my first book. And now I'm out with my second book called The Meathead Method. And it just came out officially yesterday.
Well, I've got to ask, how did you get the name Meathead?
Oh, it's fairly obvious to people of a certain generation. Dad and I used to sit around and watch a TV show called All in the Family. And it was real popular, and there was a lead character named Archie Bunker who was a bit of a bigot. A big bigot. But he was a sweetheart. You loved him even though he was a bigot.
That's right.
And his daughter and son-in-law lived with him. And his son-in-law was a far liberal, and he called his son-in-law Meathead. And so Dad and I, this was in the Nixon years. Dad was a conservative. He wasn't a bigot, and he wasn't as bad as Archie. And I was on the liberal side, and college kid. And so I was Meathead. And
You just kind of stuck.
it stuck. When I got into barbecue, as soon as you have to have a moniker. You have to have an avatar, a name, a nickname. So Meathead was the natural.
That is pretty
And it's
good.
worked extremely well. I mean, when I call my lawyer's office, who's calling Meathead, they all know who it is. You call somebody up, it sticks, it's memorable.
My nickname's kind of faded. I'm kind of glad of it.
What is it?
Actually, it was Fat Crack.
Back crack?
Fat Crack.
Fat crack.
Like a pig,
Yeah.
Fat Crack.
Yeah.
I was called Fat Crack's Barbecue. That was my nickname in high
Okay,
school was Fat
okay.
Crack. And,
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know why, I think I had a bad sense of mooning people, back in my high school days.
Candace, what's your nickname?
I don't really have a nickname.
Oh.
I mean,
Dessert Queen, maybe that's.
no, I don't have a.
Well, Candace, candy, dessert, sweet, something's
Yeah,
let's come up with one now.
When I was younger, a lot of the older people would call me Candy. I did not like it,
Oh.
but there were a few of like my grandparents' friends and that
It's a
kind of
cute
stuff would call me that.
It's
But
a cute name.
it didn't really stick.
So, what was some of the earliest memories you recall grilling with your dad? Because I'm sure y'all done
I
some
did.
grilling and
I
things
did.
like that.
Dad had a kettle type device. It wasn't a Weber. It was one of the square ones. And his specialty was flank steak and beef ribs. But he grilled. He didn't smoke them. And I don't know, I'm starting around 8, 10 years old. I'd hang around the grill, and I just loved the smell, and I loved the food. I loved the taste. He might have let me have a little sip of beer every now and then, and maybe that helped encourage me, but I just loved hanging out by the grill with my dad. Dad and I, we didn't do a lot together, but we fished together and we grilled together, and that was our special bonding time. And it stuck. It's taken over my life.
So, your family also owned a restaurant, correct?
That's right. That's right. Dad made the mistake of starting a restaurant. He had been actually I said food science. He was a food technology major at NYU. And after he sold the butcher shop, years later he opened Jerry's restaurant in Sarasota, Florida. And Jerry was his name. And actually, the original name, which he kept after he bought the restaurant, was the oleander, which is a lovely flower that grows in Florida that we didn't find out until a year into the restaurant is poisonous.
I was going to say that name. I thought that was a poisonous
Yes, it is.
flower or plant. Of some
And
kind.
he let me work the soda counter. I was a soda jerk. Go ahead, give me the puns, give me the jokes. I was a jerk. But I loved making sundaes and milkshakes and malts and stuff like that. And I'd go back in the kitchen every now and then and flip burgers. And the restaurant lasted only 3 or 4 or 5 years. And Dad eventually became a stockbroker. And now we're getting into a really interesting era. He moved from Sarasota to Cocoa Beach because that area was booming with the space projects. They had just hired these 7 original astronauts, and they were getting ready to send astronauts into space. I mean, we're talking about Alan Shepard, Gus Grissom, John Glenn, that gang. And they bought a motel on Cocoa Beach. And now I'm in high school, and I was on the swim team, and I got a job as a lifeguard at the motel that the astronauts owned. And I got to know all the original 7 astronauts. And they would hang out, and if you ever saw the movie The Right Stuff, there's a bit of truth to that. The swimming pool did not have underground glass windows, but they were constantly looking around for hot babes, all of them. John Glenn didn't. John was pretty religious, but the rest of them were always on the make for, and they would ask me. I'm the lifeguard. I'm sitting there. Any hot babes around today? And they always had one room at the motel that was vacant. If they ever needed it in case of an emergency.
I'd hate to know the name of that. I'm sure it had a name.
I probably did, yes.
That's pretty good there. Wow. So after that, you kind of ended up at the School of Journalism at the University of Florida.
That's right.
So what drew you to kind of change into journalism?
I started out in pre-med, and it was during the Vietnam War, and I did not do well in organic chemistry. You would
Same.
think, because chemistry
We
is
have
something-
some stuff in common.
Yeah, chemistry killed me. Organic
Organic
one of
chemistry
these-
specifically.
Pardon?
Organic chemistry
specifically.
specifically. I had the same.
Regular chemistry I liked, and I still
agree.
do. But organic was taught in one of these big auditorium classes with 300 seats, like a movie theater. And the instructor was from Germany with a thick German accent.
Oh, it made it even
And
harder.
it was just awful. And and organic, I just could not pass it. It was the death of me. And I just realized I'm never going to make it in medicine. And I knew I could write, and I was up against the war. If you were a student during Vietnam War, you were deferred from military service. You got a 2S deferment. And in those days, I didn't frankly think that was a very good idea. I didn't want to go to Vietnam. I had Muhammad Ali said, I got nothing against those Vietnamese, and I didn't want to go. And so I stuck in school as long as I could. So I had to switch, and I figured I'm good at writing and photography. I switched, took classes, and I did real well. I loved it. I was the sports editor of the campus newspaper. I don't know if this will make the cut here, but I went to a bunch of women's clothing stores and convinced about 6 or 8 of them to buy the center spread of the campus newspaper, and each of them would have a square on that spread where they could have a model showing off their clothes. And of course, somebody had to take the pictures. And so I would drive around campus looking for hot babes and say, hey, how'd you like to be a model for the centerfold of the Florida alligator? And it worked pretty well for me, too.
I bet it did.
So when did barbecue and journalism kind of start to come together for you?
It wasn't till around the year 2000. I went to college from 67 to 71.
So it was a while.
And I worked in liquor stores. I worked in Michigan. I worked in Florida. I worked in Illinois. Bounced around. Loved food. Got into cooking. But it wasn't until I decided that I was drinking too much and I needed to get out of the wine business. And I loved cooking, and my neighbor challenged me to this rib cook-off,
Right.
and so I built this little... Building a website in those days was a 3-hour project. HTML, core HTML is easy. Today, it's gotten really nutsy out there. But so I built this little website, AmazingRibs.com, and Google came along a few years later, and they fell in love with it and started sending a lot of traffic to it, and it became the largest and the most popular barbecue and grilling website in the world.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So did you ever expect that when you first started?
No. Oh, no. I was still groping around for what am I going to do now that I'm not and I in the wine business. I was one of the wine magazines ranked me as one of the top 10 most influential wine critics in the country. I had won the Chicago Wine Tasting Championship. I was on the USA Wine Tasting team, and we had a championship against France in the World Trade Center before they came down. So I was a pretty good wino, You know the difference between a wino and a connoisseur, don't you?
No.
$10 a bottle.
That is a pretty good one right there.
That's an old trade joke.
So
Only a barbecue guy wouldn't know that.
You're right. So you built tastings.com in 98, correct?
Yes, goodness, tastings.com. There's a name out of the past. Yeah. That was a wine site that I built for my company. Beverage Testing Institute still exists. They still do some really great stuff.
And you also started Wing and Dine Online for LA Online.
Wine and Dine Online. Now that goes back.
Wine and Dine.
That goes back before HTML. Wine and Dine Online was you type in R for red, W for white. It was just a wine reference site out of LA. It was the first wine-related internet site because it wasn't a website. It wasn't web. It was just command line controls. Boy, you've done your research.
Well, I mean, we tried. You were also one of the first people to be awarded a master's degree in art and technology.
Yes.
Right?
that's something I'm pretty proud of, and it connects to the new book. Somewhere around after I got out of the wine business, I had always been interested in photography and art, and I somehow I had never finished my bachelor's degree at the University of Florida. I somehow got admitted to a master's program at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is, one of the great, Leroy Neiman was a graduate, and so was, I'm forgetting her name, but...
it's just an iconic school.
Yes, it's one of the great art schools, and they let me in. And I got really interested in technology. I met a woman who was teaching art and technology, and I was her first grad student. It was the only degree program in art and technology in the country. Now every art school has, lasers and holograms and computer art and all that stuff. But this was the first, and so I had the first master's degree in art and technology. And it's always been in my blood. I thought about a career in art or photography, but it's really hard to make a living in those things. But I've always carried cameras. I've always been fiddling. And the photography in both my books, I did all the photography. There's 400 photographs in here.
Wow.
And some of them are really quite beautiful. Some of them are pretty ordinary. But I used a novel technique for photographing many of the foods in this book. The procedural photographs are just straight photographs. In fact, a few are even smartphone photographs. But the finished recipe photographs, typically, I had a studio in my basement, and I would turn out all the lights, and I would illuminate the food with a pen light, a light no bigger than a pen. All the lights are out, and I would click the pen on, and I would light the food, and I'd move around it, and it was kind of like a dance. I have a video on YouTube showing me do this. I think they're really quite beautiful.
That's pretty slick. So you got married to a food microbiologist in 1974 and moved back to New York.
I don't know why I'm here. You could tell my story better than I can.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you married a food microbiologist.
Yeah, I did. It's just food all around.
1974, I was working at the liquor store, and this very cute young lady who was a grad student at Loyola University, getting a master's in microbiology, got a job working part-time as cashier. And I would hang around the cash register and bag for her. And we started dating. Our favorite thing was a Chinese restaurant nearby where you could bring your own bottles. And about a year or two later, we got married. And we just had our 50th anniversary last fall.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, stuck. God knows I've tried to screw it up, and she won't let me.
Well, I know how that is.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, what is one of the biggest changes you've seen in barbecue over the years?
It's going on right now. And I'd like to have your feedback if you think I'm getting near. And it's represented in this book. We're seeing... American barbecue is a marvelous, unique style of culinary art in the world. Chinese have been grilling and smoking, going back to the beginning of Mesopotamia and everything. But what we call barbecue and grilling is really uniquely American. What's happening now is other cultural influences are inculcating barbecue. I was in Austin not long ago, and I went to a barbecue restaurant where he's a local Texan, and she's from Ethiopia. And the Ethiopian flavors and influences are right there on the menu up front, and they're delicious. There's another place in Atlanta where she's from Korea, he's from Texas, and the Korean flavors are there in the barbecue. We both know Bill Durney. Bill Durney, Hometown Barbecue in Red Hook, New York. He's an artist. He's a creator. He's clever. He's got a brilliant palate, and he's doing marvelous things. And he's bringing in Asian ingredients and and Spanish, and I've tried to do that in this book. I like to say this is where barbecue goes next. And I think that it's exciting, and I know a lot of purists are upset about this. That's not barbecue. It's got gochujang in it. How can it be barbecue? Hoisin sauce, that's not barbecue. Barbecue is a technique, a style, a method. And I call it Meathead Method because I talk a lot about methods. But the book contains sous vide Q, which is blending sous vide with barbecue, using koji, which is a mold, which is what's used to make soy sauce and miso. I cook on this is so cool. And we can dive into it because I think your listeners would be interested. I do stir fry in a wok on top of a charcoal chimney.
I've never thought about that.
You like Chinese food, don't you?
Yes.
Who doesn't? And you do it on your stovetop, and it's okay, but it's not as good as the local neighborhood Chinese joint. Why? If you've ever been in a Chinese restaurant kitchen, you know that they cook on top of a volcano. Yeah. It's this gas flame that is incredibly hot.
So hot.
And when you throw the meat in, it fries. At home, even if you've got a good wok, when you throw the meat in, even if you've got a good gas stove, the juices all come out and you braise.
That's right.
It's delicious, but it's not the same.
That's right.
Well, I'm back out one day getting ready to start my charcoal fire to do some steaks or something. And I start the charcoal up in a charcoal chimney, which I always use to start charcoal fires. And anybody out there who's starting a grill should learn how to use a chimney if they don't have one. And so I light the charcoal, and in case you're not sure what it is, it looks like a big coffee can. And you put newspaper in the bottom and charcoal on top, light the newspaper, and the charcoal catches on fire. But it's 4 or 5 layers deep, and it's confined in a narrow space, maybe 6 or 8 inches wide. So it's really intense, concentrated heat. And I turn around, and I'm doing something. I turn back and look, and it's around dusk, and there's this blue flame coming out of that chimney. It looks like the back end of an F-35. And the light bulb goes off. Wow. And I run inside and get my wok, put it on top, and I get an infrared thermometer and point at the wok, and it's well over 1,000 degrees.
Wow. Just that fast.
Boom. So I'm cooking Chinese on my charcoal chimney. Here's another one that's in the book that's a lot of fun. You like fried chicken, of course. You're here in the South. But you don't cook it in your kitchen very often, do you?
Frying any kind of food in the kitchen sucks.
I think it takes an artist to make the proper fried chicken because not all fried chicken is good.
It's an art of fried chicken, too.
Let me open a new world for you. Do it on your gas grill. Fire up your gas grill in 2 zones. Hot zone, take it up to 350, 375. Put a cast iron Dutch oven, tall size. 2 inches of oil. The other side of the grill is off. Do your frying in that cast iron Dutch oven. Who cares if it spatters? Who cares if it smokes? You do it indoors, stinks up the kitchen, gets oil all over the stovetop, all over the counter, even on the floor, smells up the house for a couple of days. Do it outdoors on a gas grill. Now you can deep fry, and when the meat is exactly the right color that you like, I like it golden, not brown. You take it out and you sit it on the indirect side and just let it sit there and stay warm. It drips. Put the next batch in. It'll get up to temp. You can temp it over there. If it's still a few degrees cold, you can let it just sit there. I talk about my favorite way of breading, and there's a million ways, everything from just plain flour to cornstarch to Wheaties, whatever. Cheetos. I've seen Cheetos as a breading. Do whatever breading you want.
Have you ever heard of Captain Crunch? Somebody taking Captain Crunch and grinding
I have never had Captain Crunch. And Alton Brown, who wrote the foreword to my book, is a friend, and he is a Captain Crunch fanatic.
Well, the reason I say that, when you said Wheaties, it just always makes me think of the local bar down here.
They used to
do a chicken and waffles, and their chicken tenders was breaded with Captain Crunch.
How about that?
It was actually delicious.
It was actually delicious with for chicken and waffles, if you really think about it.
Sure.
I mean, it was just amazing as a side dish. And you talking about the different going on right now, the different fusions of food, you're absolutely right. I just feel like there's so many different influences, and some people say, well, that's not traditional barbecue. But I think it's kind of cool to be able to take hoisin sauce or anything, any kind of wild ingredient over here, teriyaki for say. And I just done a pineapple teriyaki rib, and it was a shot in the dark. I said, I'm going to try this thing, and half my recipes I test out beforehand. But if it's a rib recipe and I'm making a new glaze up, I'm rolling with it, right? I know how to cook
I've seen
the rib.
that. I've seen you surprise yourself.
And some of them just turn out so flavorful. It's like, why did I not think of this before? And somebody's got to like that, right? It's not just me.
It's like I was saying, it's called the culinary arts. And that's because art is creativity. Art is experimentation. Art is on the edge, trying new things, redefining the medium. And there's no reason why barbecue shouldn't be advancing the culinary arts. And it is. It is in a lot of restaurants. It is in my book. It's more and more, I think, something that we should encourage because there's some great flavor. I mean, listen, give me a good old slab of ribs. I'm here in town, both to see you, and also I'm going to one of the barbecue competitions that are in town this weekend.
Are you doing some judging?
No, I don't judge anymore. I don't like being stuck in a tent eating 20 slabs of ribs that all taste the same. I like to bounce around, wander around, and also I've got a little booth. I'll be promoting the book. But
well, for anybody wanting to know, please check out Meathead's new book. I dove into it. I'm not, but about a quarter of the way in, because sometimes you flip through cookbooks and you go, I'm going to go back to that and cook a recipe, right? Well, I started reading in yours in the beginning of it, and it's got so much of the early science that it's crazy.
Well, that's part of the fun of the book. It's called the Meathead Method because I just showed you two new fun methods: cooking on top of a wok, on top of a charcoal chimney, and fried chicken on the gas grill. And there's a lot of methods in here, techniques in here. I mentioned koji, sous vide Q.
So let's talk about sous vide Q.
Yeah, sure.
I've sous vide dozens of steaks and pork tenderloins, and I know other people that's done it, but I never have sous vide like a whole brisket and cooked it off. Have you ever done that?
I haven't, and the only reason I haven't is because it's just my wife and me, and I don't cook whole briskets anymore. But it's great because it's a good way to cook chunks of brisket. I mean, if you go down to the grocery store and you buy a 3-pound chunk of brisket and try to do it competition style or Southern style, it's just not going to work. I mean, that method is designed for a 12 to 18 pound hunk of meat. But sous vide is a perfect way to handle a small hunk like that. And for your listeners who are not familiar with what sous vide is, it's very simply a technique where when you're cooking on a grill or a smoker, the temperature you're cooking at is a lot higher than the target temperature of the food. Let's say you're going to do a steak. Steak is best when it's medium rare, and the scientists know this because they can test the resistance of the meat to a metal blade that simulates a tooth. They can measure the amount of juices. At medium rare, a steak is most tender and most juicy, and that's 130 to 135 and not a penny more or a penny less. And if you don't use a good digital thermometer today, you don't know how to cook. There's still a bunch of old guys. I just poke it with my finger here,
If I had to choose one tool, it would be that thermopen for me.
Thermometers are absolutely brilliant, them and a good knife, and you're ready to go. But with sous vide, you take a pot of water and you put a special heating element in there, and you can set it for 130 to 135, whatever it is, right? 131.5, whatever you want. Set the temperature of that water. You put the steak in a Ziploc bag, lower it in there so all the air comes out, and walk away. 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever you want. The steak goes up to 131.5, and it can't go higher. You can't overcook it. I mean, how many steaks have we all ruined by overcooking? Stand there at the head of the table, well, it kind of got away from me, no more. The problem is when you take it out of the bag, it is butt ugly because it hasn't gotten brown. It hasn't had that Maillard reaction, which is the chemical reaction which changes the surface and builds your bark or your crust. And so now you've got to create the surface. So a lot of folk just throw it in a cast iron pan on the stovetop, or on the grill, or smoker then grill, or you can combine the techniques. I'm going to be teaching a class in sous vide Q at Weber in August at the Weber headquarters in Illinois. I've been let's crack you up. I'm a member of the Barbecue Hall of Fame, and I'm honored. There's only 40 living members right now. I've been nominated to the Sous Vide Hall of Fame.
Really?
I'm going to be a double barrel Hall of Famer if I'm lucky.
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know there was a sous vide.
I didn't know that
Hall of
either.
Fame.
Yes. There's an International Sous Vide Association. They're on the internet, ISVA, and they do a lot of fun stuff. We just did a cruise to Bimini and Cozumel, where we taught sous vide, and I taught sous vide Q. The other chefs taught regular sous vide. They're doing some fun stuff with sous vide and cocktails now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I just know that we got into it hot and heavy probably, 3 or 4 years ago. And I use my sous vide every now and then. And I use it this week at Barbecue Fest. I put my barbecue sauce in them in squirt bottles and pre-warm my barbecue sauce for my ribs and all that, where I'm not shocking the ribs.
You know what
days.
else I do use sous vide for? You'll love this. When your jar of honey crystallizes,
Oh, yes.
drop it in the sous vide water.
Yeah.
About 130 degrees or so. It brings it back to normal. And they're all in plastic, so I used to put it in a saucepan, and of course it'd get too hot and it'd melt the plastic. But now
Sous vide
does it right on
Perfect.
the money. Now this weekend, are you cooking at which one?
In May.
Memphis in May. Am I a strike breaker? I'm going to the slam.
Smoke Slam? I don't have a problem with either contest myself personally. I love promoting barbecue. Am I sitting here saying I wish they were on different weekends?
So
yes,
do I.
I do. I wish that I could be involved with both of them. I mean, but me from a person that's cooked Memphis in May for I don't know how many years now, and it's been on the same weekend for this will be the 47th year. It would be hard for them to change that
I understand.
weekend. I don't know the whole, I would say, politics of what's going on. I'm just an outsider that loves to do barbecue right, and I just wish that they could, for the greater good of the sport, that they could all work something out, and it would benefit everyone. I feel like they're separating people too much.
I was hoping you'd be able to give me some insight to the politics, because I don't compete, and the reason I was joking with you about this the other day. I'm supposed to be a good cook. People think I know what I'm doing. If I competed, I'd come in dead last. You guys would kick
I don't believe you would come in dead
You
last.
guys would kick my ass. But in any case, and I used to judge, but it's boring, and I don't do that now anymore. I just wander around, meet people, shake hands, eat, taste, talk, and learn. But they invited me to participate in the Smoke Slam. And I didn't know that it was the same weekend as Memphis in May. I've been to Memphis in May, and it's a great event. And now I'm starting to worry. Geez, have I crossed the line?
I don't think so personally myself, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're your own individual, and you got to do what you was asked to do. Nobody asked you from another organization, so I mean, you're just out promoting the sport for the good, just like me, and
Yes.
and it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're just kind of bystanders caught in the middle, is what I like to say.
Yeah, I do wish that and it should be the Smoke Slam that moves the date rather than Memphis in May.
And I honestly wanted to get somebody on from Smoke Slam and was supposed to have it happen, and then they had to cancel for some unforeseen circumstances. And we do have Melissa Cookston coming up to kind of recap about it and things like that. We wanted to make it work beforehand, but we couldn't.
Melissa's a goddess.
She is.
Also
She is.
Barbecue Hall of Famer. And,
Known her for years. It's kind of crazy that around our area here, Memphis barbecue in general, that none of us really live in Memphis. All of us live in DeSoto
I've
County.
noticed that.
All of us live in DeSoto County. So, between myself and Malcolm Reed and Melissa Cookston, Mark Lambert, John Wheeler, and I know I'm leaving out.
Well, my right-hand man, Clint Cantwell, no longer competes.
Yeah.
Clint runs the website while I'm off running around writing books. So Clint is the president now of the company, AmazingRibs.com, and he lives in Germantown, actually. So yeah, there's a tremendous community down here, and I haven't been down here in maybe 10 years or so, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I love that. That's something about Smoke Slam. I love the venue. I mean, it's right on the river.
It is a great venue. I do love it down there. And, we cooked in the park year before last when Memphis and May was still there. And with me being in the beer business previously, I will say I had a lot of dealings down there with events and things like that. And so over the course of the last 20 years, they've kind of shortened that park to build that kind of boat dock there and different things like that. So you lost about 30 teams there. And so Memphis and May had got down to about 140, 150 teams because that's all they could hold. Well, now that they redone that park, it can't hold but about 70 teams.
Oh, is that right?
And so that's why Memphis and May really had to move. It could not logistically hold the amount of teams for a world championship. Mm-hmm. And then after they put in all the swells, and I know you hadn't been there and you were used to seeing the river before. And so I would really like to see your opinion after of how they landscape that. It's kind of like it hid the beauty of the river to me, almost, versus highlighting it a little more.
In certain areas.
In certain areas of it, it did.
Well, I'm just looking forward to it. It looks like the weather forecast is decent. There's possibility some rain on Friday, I guess.
It wouldn't be a barbecue contest without a little rain, right?
That Memphis in May is just like every year. It's got to rain on you guys.
That's right. Well, I have to ask, I always ask everybody this. Let's talk about food in general. Where's some of the best barbecue destination cities you've been, or maybe not cities, restaurants in general? What is some of your favorite, maybe like one bite from this place or one dish from this place? What is some of the best dishes you've had? Because with your knowledge and experience and travel, it's way more than mine.
Well, I'm gonna upset some of your listeners because my definition of barbecue is very broad. And, if you ask somebody to define barbecue, they usually start with, well, it's low and slow, and it's smoke, and grilling is hot and fast. But those definitions are getting real fuzzy. What temperature do you cook your brisket at?
It just depends on what I feel like that day.
Don't dodge the question.
275 most times, probably average.
Because I've heard guys up in the 325, 350 range now.
A lot of them do it.
You call that low and slow?
No. I think
so that's not barbecue?
I think anything over 275 is hot and fast barbecue, and anything below 275 is low and slow.
All right,
barbecue.
well, at least you can draw the line.
That's kind of a benchmark.
At least you can draw the line. I often challenge barbecue guys. I say, okay, what is hot and fast? What is low and slow? And they go, ham. You can't draw the line. Okay, at least you've got a line. That's good. But a lot of them are up in the 300 range now for brisket and other meats. I won't. I'm stuck down at 225 like the good old days. I like low and slow. I know that the hotter you get, you contract muscle fibers, whatever. I include steakhouses in the world of barbecue.
Agreed 100%.
Oh, good.
Agreed 100%.
So
I think food in general, anything grilled over coals, or it may be a char grill or hell with gas, but if they've got the flavor on it that's right, and you can't pick it out, then so be it. They just executed a perfectly good dish.
90% of your so-called barbecue joints are cooking with gas and wood for flavor. So it's gas for energy, wood for flavor. I got no problem with that. I know that down in the Carolinas, you got a few guys who have tried to start a society that they call real barbecue, and they're trying to ostracize the rest of the world. That's silly. We're all in it together. We're all doing it together. So my definition is basically if there's flame and smoke, it's barbecue. And I don't care about temperature. I don't care what cut of meat it is. I do an awesome eggplant parmesan on the grill. No meat. I'm meathead. My wife is a master gardener. She actually has a certificate she's gotten from she was a PhD microbiologist. She retired. She now took the classes, and she's a master gardener and teaches gardening classes. We have a great garden. In August, I'm a veg head. I love, and my eggplant parm is I do caponata. I think yes, it's in that book.
I love good.
There's a really good caponata in that book. I've got a couple of vegetarian recipes in that book. And I was raised in Florida. I'd be fish head if I still lived down there. And a lot of people don't consider fish barbecue. And you go down, particularly the west coast of Florida, down through Sarasota, Bradenton, Manatee County, And they know how to smoke fish. And there's some really tasty fish down in that neighborhood. And I've got a couple of good fish recipes in here, including, have you heard of Nobu Restaurants? It's a chain of restaurants started by Nobu. He's one of the Iron Chefs.
Yes.
He's got one in Vegas, which is hugely popular, and most major cities have a Nobu.
Yes.
His number one favorite dish is sable with miso, and I've done that recipe in here, but I smoke it, and it's just marvelous. Sable is a brilliant fish.
I don't guess I've ever had any of that.
Go find sable.
So. Oh, I'm sure it would be hard to find around here.
Find a fishmonger somewhere around here who can get you fresh sable. I think it's the best fish in the sea.
I had, what was it, Del Sol the first time? What was it that we ate? I was with Malcolm.
Fillet of sole?
So I never had it until Malcolm was like, "Oh, you got to have the sole," and I'm like,
"Did they bone it at the table and put the Meunier, the butter sauce on it? Isn't that good?"
Oh, it was yes.
Yeah.
We were at a really, really good restaurant in Atlanta, right? Yes.
It technically wasn't in the outskirt of Atlanta.
Yeah, outskirt of Atlanta.
Yeah, so my definitions are very broad. And when I dine out, I'm constantly saying, "Gosh, this is good. I bet I could do this at home better on the grill."
Oh, I'm the world's worst at that, of nitpicking at every dish that comes to a table for me, and it's really hard for me to go somewhere to a basic place and order a steak.
Well, that's what I was going to say when he was talking about steakhouses. I feel like we can't, not even basic steakhouses, but even nice steakhouses, it's hard to get him to even go anymore because he's always disappointed.
Do you remember the days when you couldn't cook a steak?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the days when I was like,
I never really had that problem.
I did. I couldn't get a steak as good as any restaurant. And now, of course, just like you, I mean, and I'll eat at the fanciest steak joints, and it's barely as good as mine. And
for me, I'm a huge sides person.
But I like the experience, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm a sides person. And most of these upscale steakhouses, some of the sides are the best thing that I eat there. I mean, or dessert, but I can't have corn anymore because of my diverticulitis. So I used to love a dish, cream corn brulee. Have you ever been to a steakhouse brulee?
Yeah.
I mean, I just...
Come to Chicago, and I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and let's go eat some steak. It's a good town for beef.
I'll take you up on that. I'll be up in August. I tell you, I went to the Weber Grill Company for the first time last August there, and some of the cooks knew who I was when I walked in the door. I was not expecting that. One of the best pork chops I've ever had in my life. I will straight up say that.
In the restaurant. Yeah.
In the Weber restaurant, I'm going to give it in
a
the
lot
top
of fun.
3.
I was just there a few weeks ago.
The pork chop was.
Well, I'm
a
going
huge
up
pork
to the
chop eater.
Weber Grill headquarters.
We're supposed to go over there too when I come in August.
And I'm going to be there August 22nd teaching sous vide. So if you're in the neighborhood,
maybe around the time
we might have to cross paths.
Yes, we might. I got to come up for the Ace show.
The what show?
The Ace Hardware show.
Oh, the Ace show. Yes, I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that.
I like Italian when I come to Chicago.
Oh, I know where the good Italian places are.
So yours, what's your favorite one? Rosebuds.
He might laugh at me.
No, Rosebud's marvelous.
I love Rosebuds.
I love Rosebuds.
What do you prefer?
In Chicago?
I mean, I haven't been to a lot.
I'm tired. I'm married into a large Italian-American family.
So you probably burned out on Italian.
My wife is Tortorello. Well, I'm not burned out on Italian. What I'm burned out on is garden variety red sauce joints. I really, and I've done Italy a couple of times. So what I'm looking for is authentic, and there's a few places over in town that are authentic, that are really nice. With
I like
Scarol, Escarole, and the greens and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So where is the one of the restaurants you've ever been to that you considered a rib to be very, very good?
It's like your steak talk. There's a lot of them that make brisket better than I do, or as good as I do, better. I mean, Smoke in Chicago, SMOQUE, Barry Sorkin makes the awesome brisket, as good as anything in the country, including Texas. But my ribs are better than his. My ribs are better than most restaurant.
Ribs are hit and miss at a restaurant.
I've never had a rib at a restaurant that I was just overly impressed. But I will say, on that one side, I don't try a lot of ribs at restaurants either because I know that I'm going to not like them. So
David Stedeman, when he was opening his restaurant, and it was like
I never made it
competition
there.
style barbecue, and he didn't stay open but about 2 years. He had an accountant that I think didn't pay us, that was dealing with him in the wrong way. But anyway, his ribs were really good. But to me, as far as a rib, that at one time it was a couple times it's been semi-tough, but the one time that it was dead on the money was Cozy Corner down here in
I'm
Memphis.
sitting here racking my brain because I got to tell you, when I dine out now, I don't normally go to barbecue joints. It's usually, when people say, I'm coming to town, let's go to dinner, I say, okay, but anything but barbecue.
And you're like me, you
Cozy
don't go.
Corner, I absolutely adore Cozy Corner. What's the lady's
Miss
name?
Desiree?
Miss Desiree. What a classy lady. Also a Hall of Famer now. I love the Cornish hens. And they cook on a Chicago-style pit that you don't see outside of Chicago.
I don't really know what that's called.
It's called the Aquarium Pit.
Aquarium, okay.
It's an aquarium pit. And for your listeners who don't know what it is, it's basically an elevation of the old hole in the ground. I mean, this is Delta Barbecue moved its way up the Mississippi, and it began as a trench in the ground with sticks on top, and you can't do that in a restaurant, obviously. So they build a brick or a cinder block, looks like a giant bathtub, a big square, and because of smoke regulations, on top of it, they've had to enclose it with plexiglass, which then funnels into the chimney. So they call it an aquarium because it's, if you look at it, it looks like a big glass aquarium on a concrete base. And it's all wood-fired, and the pitmaster usually sits there all day on a stool chucking logs in there, and he's got a garden hose in the other hand. And if it gets too hot, he sprays it down, and that puts steam in the air. And that's your classic aquarium pit. And there may be a dozen or more in Chicago. The factory that makes them is in Chicago.
So they still sell them today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can still buy one. And Desiree, last I was there, I haven't been there in a while. Last I was there, she was cooking over one.
She still had one last time I was there,
yeah,
several months
and
back.
I think I asked her about it, and she said they have a spare one in the garage just in case.
That is something I didn't know they made those anymore, so you're going to make me buy another grill.
There is at least one factory making them, and maybe two.
So Famous Dave, that's what he's known for when he started out, correct?
Well, Famous Dave, I think so. I think he was cooking on on an aquarium pit because he came from Chicago. He moved to Minnesota, but he came from Chicago, and he tells marvelous stories about his dad, who would take him out almost every weekend to a different barbecue joint. Almost all African American on the south side of Chicago.
I've heard him speak at so many different little things through the years over the course of the last 25 years. To me, he's had such an amazing story of struggle and success and downfall and rising again. And it's just amazing to see his attitude the way it's always been.
And he knows the history, too.
Oh, God.
And I love history. I love the culture surrounding barbecue, and he is on top of it. Yeah, he's a real gem.
Well, I tell anybody that food just brings so many people together in different ways, right? You talk about all these different cultures and the scope of everything, grilling and barbecue changing, and you like you said, you have some of the purists, and I kind of agree. I like the fusion of it and the flavors and the mix and the culinary experiences of it, because tasting something for the first time that's really been paired together the right way, I mean, some of it, I'm sure you've had some of the dishes and you just shake your head like, wow, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I? Yeah. I mean, it's just so many different little things like that.
I like to tell people that that at a meal, what's on the table is important, but what's more important is who's in the chairs.
That's right. That's a good way to put that. So, do you have any more plans on any more books after this?
No, I'm 76 years old in June. I had to think about that.
You're really 76?
Yeah. I turned 76 in June.
I would have never have guessed that.
Well, I'm flattered you think so. All right, I'm going to go off on a small tangent here if time permits. But I have almost always owned my own businesses since when I turned 21, I worked in liquor stores for about 5, 6, 7 years. And then somewhere in my late 20s, I started my own business and I started doing things for myself. And I was an entrepreneur. And I've been an entrepreneur all my life. And people think that this is a really cool thing to do. That I'm going to start I hate my boss. I hate 9-to-5 work. I don't like the work I'm doing. I'm going to start my own business and be my own boss and make a fortune. And you watch Shark Tank. And you see these guys and they've got the dumbest ideas, you know? And the sharks tell them, no, don't do it. And they walk off stage and they go in the back where the camera points at them and say, I don't care what they say, I'm going to do it anyhow. And you want to reach through the screen and grab them by the neck and strangle them and say, you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your wife, you're going to lose your kids, you're going to lose every penny that you own. Go get a 9-to-5 job that gives you a vacation, weekends off, and health care. And I got to tell you, I often look back on my career because when I left the wine business, I had an offer to become the national sales manager for a very good wine company.
Which would have put you in a really good
I would have made
financial play and everything.
Six figures back in the 80s. I turned it down to start my own business. And now I work for the last 40, 50 years, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. My office is right next to the dining room. When we're done with dinner, I can see that computer screen calling me. And there's always work to be done. And there's always a project that's needing finishing. And I've been successful. I'm not wealthy, but I'm comfortable. I have a good reputation. I'm well known. I'm Hall of Fame. But I'm done with it. I'm 70. I keep advancing. I'm 77. I'm 76, and I want to spend more time with my wife. I want to do more gardening. I want to travel more. We raise puppies for Leader Dogs for the Blind. I want to do more of that. So I'm turning over the business more and more to Clint and his right-hand man, Dave Joachim, who is a Beard Award-winning food writer. And they'll continue to run the website. I will be involved. I'll continue to write for it and offer.
Can't ever turn loose of the full reins.
No. And I will be sure to make sure I tell Clint when he's wrong, which will piss him off no end. But I'm trying. I'd like to cut back to 20 hours a week. And I'm just done with these 60-hour weeks.
Well, I would say that you've more than earned your stay. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing wrong with that, of relaxing a little bit.
Well, aren't you guys doing the same gig?
I mean, we are. It's. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not, but yes, sir. It's 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it is harder with us having a 3-year-old now at home. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of more in the mix of the work mix more than Candace is. But it takes a crew. You know, we have a wonderful staff that works with us, and we're up to over a dozen people now.
And you feel responsibility to them, and this is part of the problem. That it sits on your shoulder. If I screw up, I got to fire somebody, or I got to lay somebody off, or I got to cut somebody's salary. And that hurts.
It does.
You don't want to do that. It's a responsibility.
It's definitely a responsibility, and just when that weighs on your shoulders, and then the weight of being an entrepreneur, I'm sure you went through it several years. You have highs and lows, and we've been on a constant incline, and it's hard to buckle up and keep up with the day-to-day operations of the barbecue world. And COVID, when it hit for us, kind of doubled us up real fast. And so trying to catch up from a double up, I don't know if your website kind of took the beating
Actually, we got a boost during COVID.
That's
because
what I'm
people were
talking
staying
about.
home.
It was all boost, but just trying to hold on to put more information out there
Mm-hmm.
and just constantly do more to keep up with the flow of everything is what I'm talking about.
Well, and you know, there are so many forces trying to bring you down. COVID is a force trying to bring you down. Tariffs is a force trying to bring you down. Competition is a force trying. When I launched AmazingRibs.com, we were the only game in town. Google fell in love with us. They still like us. I ranked #1 for everything. And now there's 100 daddy bloggers out there who have full-time day jobs, but they come home and they grill up some steaks or whatever. And it's easy. They use WordPress, and they've got a website now, and they're nibbling away at my traffic. And, you know, how do you combat it? And especially if Google decides that their steak recipe is #1 and mine is #5. And, you know, being in business is a highly stressful, competitive game. And to anyone out there who thinks, I make a really good barbecue sauce, why don't I bring it to market? Well, I got news for you. I did that. I mean, the people at Old World Spices came to me and said, you know, you got a brand. You're well known. You're better known than Heath. Why don't you bring a sauce and a rub to the market? It'll sell like crazy. And so we did, and we promoted it on our website, and they said they were going to promote it, and that's another story. And then I took a look around after 2-3 years, and I said, I can't compete with Heath. First of all, he's got a great product, and he's designed a marketing system that's just going to kick my butt. I don't belong in this business, and I shut it down. No more rubs, no more sauce. Now, if I can't make it in the rub and sauce business, thank God I had another business to keep me alive. What chance do you have, dear listener, who is watching this or listening to this podcast? Don't do it.
I mean, there's not a lot of money in barbecue sauce when you look at the grand scheme of things between shipping and freight and all that. Rub, you know, is okay, but the sauce business in general and fighting for shelf space when you do get out of the mom and pops places, and they're the backbone of us. And if you want to start moving into big box or get enough approach to where they approach you, it's so hard to cut a deal with them because of what they're looking for, and you can't compete with McCormick's and Stubbs and somebody that's been
Sweet
paid
Baby Ray,
That's what I
$3.99 a
said.
bottle
You
on
cannot
sale for
compete
the
with
holiday.
I mean,
Can't
$2.99.
compete with that.
That's expensive. $1.29 around here.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I mean, I can't compete with that. I'm paying, you know.
No. Now, the rub market is a little more doable, but the sauce market's impossible.
It does. It seems like for us, we tell people will go out and pay $10 to $12 for a bottle of dry rub all day long because they can use it a lot of applications.
And it'll last.
But barbecue sauce, they know when they buy a bottle, they're usually going to use that whole bottle at once if they're grilling a load of chicken or ribs or whatever. And for us, we're in that craft category. And you know what I mean, you know, signature craft category, whatever, premium line. And so we're hitting the $6 to $7 range. And it's kind of hard when you got Sweet Baby Ray sitting there for $1.29 or Kraft for 99 cents on July the 4th. People's going to pick that up.
If you're in the $6 to $7 range, you're doing something special because, I mean, making quality artisanal rubs and sauces.
Well, that's just for sauce.
Yeah,
now,
that's
rub
just for
is not
sauce.
that
Rub
cheap.
is 10, 11.
Oh, okay.
But it's still, like you said, with everything going on right now.
How many sauces and how many rubs now?
I have 16 dry rubs, 3 wing seasonings. Just launched my 6th glaze today.
Wow.
It dropped. And we have 3 barbecue sauces currently. Wow. And I'll start dropping some rubs out before long and thinning some of my category down. But we're going to come out with a few more sauces.
Is this the main source of revenue for your company, or is YouTube, or?
This is all we do is sell sauce and rub and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm glad I got out. There's no competing with this.
It's pretty wild. I'm a small fish in the pond.
Well, we have another revenue stream. I mean, AmazingRibs.com makes money. There's advertising on the site, and we have a whole product testing program. We have the world's only full-time grill tester. Max Good tests grills and smokers full-time.
Wow, so you test pretty much every grill that comes
that we
across,
can get
right?
our hands on. There's more than we can get that we have time to test. But we try to figure out which ones are big, which ones are in the big box stores and stuff. Max does most of them, but we occasionally deputize others on the staff like Clint and myself, and we test them. And in-depth reviews. I mean...
Oh, I've watched several of yours. Really good.
Reviews.
It makes me not want to do a grill review.
Good. I'll stay out of the sauce and rub game. You stay out of the grill review game.
Well, talking about grill game, I'm gonna dive into this and stir for just a minute. Pellet grills.
Wow.
How do you feel about pellet grills and charcoal? What is your coming from an old school way and seeing pellet grills?
I've been using pellet grills for 10 years now. I love them. I don't call them grills. I call them smokers because they're basically all indirect. To me, a grill needs to have, all right,
direct flame.
Something I talk about in the book here, and your listeners not possible, but you need to understand there's 3 types of heat energy on a grill or a smoker. You have direct infrared radiation, and that's when you're cooking right over flame or glowing coals. They produce high energy infrared radiation. It's the same kind of radiation you get out of a little electric space heater or at a bus station in a cold winter day. And in fact, on a hot sunny day, everybody knows there's ultraviolet in that sun rays, but there's far more infrared in sun than there is ultraviolet. So you've got that direct infrared radiation. You have indirect convection heat, which is when you're away from. So think of standing in the sun and then moving under a tree. If you set up your grill in 2 zones, one side with the charcoal or the gas on high, that's the infrared zone. No flame, no burner on the other side. That's convection airflow. It's just air moving around the meat and warming the meat with gentle convection airflow. So you got infrared, you got convection, and then there's conduction. And conduction is the metal that the meat sits on, and that's what gives you your grill marks. And the meat absorbs that energy intensely, and it is the most intense heat on your grill. That's conduction, then infrared, then convection. That's the pecking order of intensity of energy that you get. And here's a real good way to visualize it. Go into your kitchen, turn on your kitchen oven, set it for 200 degrees. When it gets to 200 degrees, open the door and stick your arm in. You can do this. It won't burn you, won't even singe the hairs, but it'll be warm in there. Now touch the side of that oven. Well, when you get back from the hospital, you'll know that 200-degree metal is a lot different than 200-degree air. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between conduction and convection. And so it's serious difference inside. Pellet smokers, and that's why I call them smokers, because most of the flame, the energy, is below a metal plate. So it's like the oven in your house. Most ovens in your home, especially if you've got a gas oven, there's flame under a metal plate. But the food is in a convection airflow zone. Same thing with your pellet smokers. And so they're fine at indirect smoking, but you're not going to sear a steak in there.
Correct.
I tell anybody that. There's a few grill companies, as you know, that makes the sear plates and the things that move over and all that, and all those are great. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. Those old original Traegers that were built, the old Pro models are still with a basic controller. Mm-hmm. Those things were built like tanks. And now everything that comes out, everybody's got these insulated and these different controllers and different models. And
I have the latest Traeger on my deck right now, and it's all like
the Woodridge or the Ironwood.
I think I call it the hardwood.
I have an Ironwood, and I do think it's the better one out of the whole bunch that they made from Traeger.
I get up and it's hardwood in the morning, and I don't. It's the latest. They're top of the line. And I, honest to God, don't remember the make and model.
I think it's Ironwood,
Ironwood, whatever. But it's connected to my smartphone. Yeah. I have never needed that feature. I've never wanted that feature. I go out there and I stick a probe in it and I poke it with my fingers and I look at it and I sniff it, and that's just the old guy in me, Yep. That's the old griller in me. I am starting to get in love with these new wireless probes.
Yes.
There's several of them. They look like a nail. and there's no cable on them. And, you know, I love the ones with cables, but the new ones without a cable, you can stick them in the meat and walk away, and they're pretty accurate.
I know the new, I haven't tried it yet. I just got the new RFX from ThermoWorks that you can deep fry with too. And so I'm looking forward to deep frying with that thing and all that. That, you know,
I'm going to deep fry on your gas grill.
Yeah, I am. I actually have deep fried on my griddle a couple times by pouring oil in a little aluminum pan.
Same idea.
And trying that right, but I've never done it on the gas grill.
Well, on the griddle, the same idea. The whole idea is get the hell out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know?
And for me, I go outside. I have a loco burner. Yeah. And I'll throw a cast iron skillet on my loco burner outside and pour my oil in there, and I may fry fish or you know, chicken.
I use a Coleman stove. So in any case, we were digressing. I was telling you we've got a guy full-time who tests grills and smokers. We've also got an electrical engineer who tests thermometers. And he used to be the head of electrical engineering at Mobile Gas. And he's just dynamite. And we have special machines that he uses to test how accurate and how fast the thermometers are. So there's a whole section of our site with product reviews. We don't accept, I don't even know who advertises. We use a third party to put all the advertising on the website. And when I work on the website, I don't see the ads. So I don't know who's buying ads. I don't care. But we do have revenue from ads. We do have revenue from affiliate. So if you buy one of the smokers that Max recommends, if you use our link, we might make a small finder's fee.
Yeah.
If you just buy it yourself or go down to the Home Depot, we don't see a nickel. But that's not a major income source. Where we do make money, and this is really cool, it's really important, I want to get this out, is we have something called the Pitmaster Club, which is so cool. We have 15,000 members, and they're paying $35 a year to be members. And this, I know anybody listening to this who has ever worked in the subscription or membership world is going to think I'm lying. Because if you get 50% renewal, you're doing good. 60% is excellent. 70% is great. 80% is unheard of, and you're lying. We have an 88% renewal rate.
I believe
They absolutely love it. And it's just chock full of information. There's 120 instructional videos in there now. From really tip-top pro pit masters and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can get a 30-day free trial on AmazingRibs.com. We don't ask for a credit card, so we're not going to bill you after 30 days. Or if you buy the book, you get a 60-day trial.
That's pretty cool.
So come down and check out the Pitmaster Club because you'll learn. You'll have fun.
Wow. So you've even got that on the sticker kind of on there. So for anybody wanting to find the book, where is it going to be available at?
It should be in all bookstores by now. In fact, after I leave here, I'm going up to a bookstore called Novel Books in Memphis. I don't know for sure where it is. And I'm going to sign copies for them. It's in Amazon and all the online stores. Amazon made it one of the 10 choices of the month. It should do okay. The last book sold almost 250,000 copies.
Wow.
If you're talking cookbooks, 10 to 20,000 is doing real well. 250,000. I'm pretty sure the only book that has outsold my last book. The last book is called Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling. I think the only book that outsold it was Stephen Reichlin's book, The Barbecue Bible. And that's been around 10 years longer than my book.
Yeah, I think I have 2 copies of it in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great book. Stephen is a great writer, a great author, constantly dreaming up new ideas and new books.
I give credit to a lot of people, but I always go back to when I was having problems making barbecue rubs or sauces, I referenced an older gentleman by the name of Paul Kirk, and I'm sure you know Mr. Paul Kirk, right?
Indeed, I do.
101 Barbecue Sauces, Mops, and Glazes, that little book. In the very back of it, he built an index of kind of ingredients of what you should use in teaspoons or half cups or quarter cups, and you shouldn't exceed that because of flavor blendings, right? And me as a youngster trying to develop a rub, I was mixing stuff together, this and that, and I couldn't get my ratios right. And so that book actually really helped me become the person I am today as far as making recipes.
Well, Paul is still with us. I don't know how old he is, but he's older than me. and his sidekick, Artie Davis, is still with us. And the two of them out of Kansas City are the couple of the foundation rocks of the barbecue community, along with Carolyn Wells, founder of the KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society, all out of Kansas City. Great people. And Artie and Paul have written some good books. Some
They
very
really
good
have.
books.
And Artie, I guess we seen him at Jack Daniel's year before last, right? Was he telling us that was his going to be last Jack? Maybe but he gave me one of his little. He does these
You got a
Buckeyes, right?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, and he logoed them up with a Jack logo and all that, and was giving them out because I believe Craig was with him, if I'm not mistaken. Craig was with him. You're Craig. It's been a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, it's Paul's cookbook though really helped me. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
We're in a fun world, aren't we?
We are. So tell everybody where they can connect with you at and kind of find, AmazingRibs.com, of course, for
He
y'all's
doesn't want you to
website.
connect with him. I'm joking.
I'm on all the social media, usually under Meathead or Amazing Ribs. But every page, 2,000 pages on AmazingRibs.com, at the bottom of the page is a place to leave a comment, a question. If I don't get it, one of our team will. We actually pay our moderators. I know most websites have moderators to watch out for. So we don't have problems with spam, by the way. I can't recall the last time we had to delete somebody's comments. It's a polite community. But we have paid monitors, so they're professionals at this. And if I can't answer your question, they will. But you can leave a question there, or there's a contact us form that I see for sure. So if you hit the contact us form and send a note, I will see it, probably respond to it within a day or two if I'm traveling. Sometimes it's slower. And then, social media, I'm just easy to find.
No doubt.
And if you want to email me directly, I'm meathead@amazingribs.com. Easy.
Well, y'all heard it here, folks. He's easy to get a hold of. And for anybody that don't know Meathead, I mean, in most of the barbecue community and anybody that's done any kind of grilling or outdoor cooking whatsoever kind of knows who Meathead is. He's a pure legend in the community, and it's an honor to have him in the studio here today with us. So, Meathead, thank you for coming in and taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me and Candace and talk. And like I said, anytime we can have an amazing person like yourself come in and spew your knowledge is always great.
It's getting deep in here.
Well, it's not getting deep, but you've put in decades of work and labor of love for a sport that you did not have to. And so there's a lot of people that gets a whole lot of credit online for furthering barbecue, and sometimes maybe it's not said enough, but thank you for everything you've put into the sport.
Well, thank you, because I think the honor is to be in this room with Candace and you. So,
well, thank you very much. Thank you. We'll see y'all next week on another episode of Shootin The Que.
If you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to us on our social media channels. Leave us a review if you've enjoyed the show. And until next time, keep shooting the Que.